Oh, what's up, YouTube? It is I, Joel, and I am back to discuss the MK John Wilson Grand Prix event that happened this past weekend in Sheffield, England. It's a very, very interesting event. Some of the disciplines were more interesting than others. I think if you watched, you know what I'm talking about. And in regards to that, I'm going to start with the pairs, which I think was the least interesting. Obviously, we had our world champions here, Alexa Kiniram and Brendan Fraser. They really didn't need to do much to win here. They came out, they had a few stumbles on the jumps. Their technical elements are so good. They're just world class, and they are at the head of the pack for sure. So I'm interested. They're obviously going to be at the Grand Prix final, barring any accident. So I'm very interested to see what other teams make it. The other team that I think will make it, I assume, is this Italian team who probably never thought that they would make it to a Grand Prix final this year. It's Conti and Macchi. They were bronze a few weeks ago, and they got silver here, and they skated very well. They seemed very, very happy with their performances. They had a personal best in the short program. There are actually a lot of season's bests and personal bests at this event, but the level of skating was not clean. I don't know if any of the programs were actually clean in the pairs event, but this discipline needs some resuscitation. It's struggling, and we seem to only have maybe one or two real contenders for like world medals per week at these Grand Prix events. So I'm very interested to see how this Grand Prix final turns out, who in the pairs field actually attends or makes it or attends. Obviously with pairs, there's like twice as much chance for injury or illness or whatever. So that also just increases the inconsistency and also a little bit of the excitement around pairs. But I'm definitely missing some of the Chinese pairs here for sure, because they always have such a good, strong batch of skaters, and they have over the past few years. So again, very interested to see what happens at the Grand Prix final in a few weeks. I imagine that it'll be a showdown between Kiniram and Fraser and probably Deanna and Max from Canada, which I think could go either way. It's real that I hope one of those two couples shows up and lays it down and makes it hard for the judges, because that would be more exciting than this pairs event. So second, I'm going to talk about dance, because I really feel like, because of Fear and Gibson being the home ice team, and they've been on a rise the last few seasons, I really think this was like the marquee event for Sheffield, and they skated very, very well. I love Fear and Gibson's short program to the J-Lo music. Lila Fear's green plant dress, it's amazing. I love it. She looks so good. I love that program. You could tell they really feel that program. So I'm very, very happy that they skated well. So they ended up getting silver in the end with their Lady Gaga free dance. There was a significant stumble near the end of the program from Lewis, but the rest of the program was very, very good. And I was kind of thinking maybe they would, because it's their home ice, home advantage, I was kind of thinking they would fudge the marks and give them the win, because, again, I don't know how ice dance is scored at all. But they did not do that. They awarded the correct winner, which was the Italian couple, Guinard and Fabri. They skated incredibly well. I believe previously, the last time they skated, I had said that I felt like they were marking their program, that they weren't really that committed to the choreography or the like intensity and acting of the program. And here, I think they knew that there was pressure on them. They knew that they had to come in and beat Fear and Gibson, who had the hometown advantage. and they came in and they crushed it. Their free program, free dance, was amazing. The intensity level was 110, and especially Guinard, she was selling this program. They hit all their elements. I think they were the clear winners. They skated the best out of anybody, and they have that one lift where she flips up and like kind of like sits on his face and then goes into another twisty move. That lift is so cool. It is so dynamic, so many different positions. The crowd went crazy. The crowd here was amazing in general. They really were supporting all the skaters. You could tell, like, when a nation doesn't have Grand Prix events very often and is, has a larger population, there are skating fans there that want to come and they want to cheer. So this was definitely an event where the crowd got, I think, their money's worth. They came and they really, really showed up for these skaters, and these skaters really showed up for the crowd. They were really pumping them up. So I think it was a merited win by the Italian couple. My personal favorites in this dance field are Marjorie Lajoie and Zachary Laga. I love their cha-cha slide rhythm dance. I think it's so fun. There's so much repeated music every season, really, but so much repeated music. They picked something interesting. I don't know who remixed this music, but they're a genius. I know, like, some people were mentioning that they might feel a bit more junior still, but I disagree. I think that they have elevated their skating. They had the really fun Rio program last year and the year before, and this, I think, is a rise up, an elevation of their previous content. And then their Nureyev free program was so beautiful. It's so detailed, so intricate. I just love watching them. Yes, I am Canadian, and yes, they're Canadian, but outside of that, I think both of their programs were my favorite programs of this entire event for the dance field. My other standout for the ice dance event was the Czech team, the brother and sister, Tashlerova and Tashler. They're so funny. I love watching them. You can just tell that they've been skating together forever, obviously, because they're siblings. And they have such good spatial awareness with each other, because there were a few sketchy moments where I don't know if she had a little misstep or she was just off the beat or off balance. And her brother, Tashler, he just grabbed her and kept the program going. And I assume they maybe lost a few points here and there on grade of execution, but they had no major glaring errors. And I think most of those were saves by Tashler. So congrats to them. A new trend started occurring at this Grand Prix event, which is climate change programs. So I think that's very interesting. This was the first one I saw. I watched the women's last, so there was a second climate change program, but this one they were wearing these kind of mod blue outfits, and they look great. They had kind of this Mother Earth vocal over top of their music, and I just think it's cool. Why not create a moment? Why not create awareness for a very important issue? So I'm here for a political figure skating moment. Definitely. I agree with this. And they skated really well. So they're amusing to watch. They seem very skilled, very comfortable out there, and they love pumping up the crowd. And again, the crowd was very with them. So congrats to them. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Canadian team, Sales and Wham Steaker, because I didn't listen to all the commentary. I kind of fast forward through a lot of it because I'm just more interested in watching the skating and the scores. But I happened to watch this one part where the commentator was talking about how they had really wanted to skate to this music this season, and that they're really feeling passionate about the music. And I was thinking, okay, what's the music going to be like? I'm intrigued. And the music turned out to be Phantom of the Opera. Not what I was expecting. They skated fine. They're, I think, a little bit more of a junior dance team at this point, and they're not at the top level yet, but they skated very well. I just can't imagine why you would have such a sentimental attachment to Phantom of the Opera, but to each their own. Personally, I really think that some musicals in the last few seasons have just been abused to death, namely Phantom, Les Mis, Greatest Showman, and probably Moulin Rouge. I don't know. There's so much music in the world. So much music. I'm not sure why we have to feel the need to dance to the same music. Like, there's 10 other teams dancing to this or skating to this every season, at least. So I just think that maybe we could shelf some of these war horses and maybe revisit them in a few years, but pick something more interesting, because I am a fan of this sport and I like musical theater, but man, the saturation is real. Along with that same comment, I will say that I think a lot of teams this season saw that the theme was Latin dance, and their immediate reaction was, I know, Gloria Estefan. Because we're hearing a lot of Gloria Estefan so far on this Grand Prix circuit. And I just think, again, there's a lot of Latin music out there, a lot of new current Latin music. I like Gloria Estefan. I think she's great. But, like, she does not equal Latin music. So I really feel like we could be being more creative. There's, like, boy bands. There's, I don't know, some chic guitar music. There's some instrumental, I don't know, remix a few things together. I'm not sure, but just, like, try something else. Because, hey, Gloria Estefan is great, but we don't need to see it more than, like, twice per competition. And we've been seeing it at least twice per competition. So let's branch out. Let's try something new, because the audience wants it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the men's event, which I actually feel like was possibly, I think was the least interesting to me. Pairs was interesting because you just had no idea who was going to be on the podium, or not even a clue who's even going to be in the top, other than Kinnearman Fraser. But in the men's event, there was really, like, at least 7, maybe even 8 of them. If they skated clean, they could have won here. There was no, like, surefire leader. So that's why this competition for the men felt very interesting. It was a very messy event. I think that a lot of the men... Well, that was fun. My phone just shut off. So we're back. Anyways, so yeah, as I was saying, I think a lot of the men could have medaled here, podiumed here, and it was kind of up to whoever skated clean to grab the opportunity and get themselves on the podium. So we had quite a bit of movement in regards to who won the short and who won the free. Roman, I love Roman. I think he's a great skater. He's got great lines. He's tall. When he hits his quad sow, it's amazing. He nailed his short program. Still had a little bit of a bobble, but kind of covered it up, and it was a very successful short program. One of my biggest shocks from the short program was Marisi Kvilashvili bombing completely. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Obviously, there's lots of drama going on in the Russian world of skating, where he comes from, even though he represents Georgia. So I was not expecting to see him in last place after the short program, especially because he's won Grand Prix events in the past and placed very highly at Europeans several times. And so anyways, that was shocking, but he did come back and skate pretty well in the free and ended up in 8th, 6th in the free, 8th overall. So good for him for coming back, but it was kind of a wild short program for him. I just didn't expect that. Don't really have much else to say about the short, but the free program was very interesting. So Daniel Grassel ended up winning. So he was second in the short and then first in the free. He had one fall on his quad flip, and the rest of his program was pretty good, technically. I think he's young, and he's, like, ambitious, clearly, with his technical content, and I really respect that. He's just not my favorite skater. He is kind of flaily, and although he has been quite consistent over the last few seasons with landing these bigger elements, they scare me. They're scary. He has scary jumps. So I think he needs to, if he wants to win Grand Prix, or he's going to keep winning, I think that's great. I think he needs to tighten up the jumps, and he needs some better styling. Last year, he wore like a pukey yellow colored Joker costume for his Joker program, and this year he's wearing a pukey green with a shirt with a weird collar and cuffs, and make it make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. His program was just like kind of violin music, and it was fine, but I don't gravitate to him. Who I do gravitate towards is Denis Vasiljev, our Latvian king, who came from third in the short to second place overall after his free skate. He was one of the only ones to almost completely skate clean. He had a bobble, or he had like a under rotation on his quad style, but he stood up on it, and that has been very inconsistent for him. But it's nice to see that he's pushing the technical content higher. And I don't know, his program was was a medley of music from Dvorak, who I'm not that familiar with, but it was kind of a whimsical music selection, and it really allowed Denis to kind of like play around through his choreography, and I really feel like he was committed to it. His costume looked great. His hair stayed in its ponytail. The crowd went like absolutely crazy for him. So I think he definitely, out of anybody in the free program, he had the moment. So congrats to him for rising to the occasion. I actually thought he might take it here and win, but Daniel Grassel had the lead already and had higher technical content, so it doesn't make sense that he won. And then coming in third here was one of the Japanese guys, Shun Sato. I think he's probably my third favorite of the Japanese men this season. He has really good jumps when he's on, and he's been pretty consistent. Didn't have his best showing here, but I think he's definitely one that we need to watch out for in the coming seasons because he's quite young, especially if Yuma, like, we don't know what's going on with Yuma and his injury. We don't know. The men's field from Japan is just so talented and has such depth, and they're all doing all the big elements. So I'm very excited to watch Japanese nationals because I think it's going to be probably one of the only events this season in the men's field that's actually interesting. Yeah. And then our fall from grace, Roman Sadovsky, first in the short, 8th in the free, falls to 6th place. I really hoped it was his moment. I really hoped so. The crowd was really behind him as well, and he just fell a lot. I think the pressure maybe just got to him, or head was into the game. I'm not really sure, but he bombed. It was hard to watch, and the crowd was really behind him when he was still attempting his second half quad that he went for, which is very ambitious of him, and very brave of him. Nice to see that effort, but unfortunately it didn't result in any success on that element that was so beautiful in the short. So I'm really hoping that he can, I don't know, adjust something in his training or his mentality and come back stronger. I think that in Canada right now, he is our hope. And I can see him definitely being a contender for like at least top 6 at the next Olympics. But he needs to really learn from some of his experiences, especially over the past year at the Olympics and so far on the Grand Prix. And I think he just needs some adjustments made to his way, because whatever he's doing is not working right now. And he's so talented, and so it's such a joy to watch. And I like his program, so I just want to see him succeed. Other than that, don't really have much else to say about the men's. For me personally, the women's event here was the one I was actually looking forward to the most. We had, again, kind of like, in this field, there were probably 4 or 5 skaters that if they skated clean in both programs, they could have taken a podium spot. So we had Mai Miyahara here, who won the gold. She skated very well. Her programs don't really do anything for me, but I find her to be very endearing, so it doesn't really matter to me what she's skating to. I just find that she's so full of joy, and she's been very consistent. She's not one of the skaters that Japan has really been leaning on for the higher level events, and it's nice to see that she came out here and she was the only Japanese skater here in the women's event, which is shocking. Usually they have a couple entries, and she crushed it. She won the short program, she won the free program. I don't think there was any question, to be honest, that she was the winner of this event. So I'm very happy that she's back after she's had some health struggles over the past few seasons. And I can really see her, if she stays healthy and keeps going, I can see her being one of the top contenders, maybe even making the podium at Japanese nationals, because a lot of the girls there or women there are injured so I can see that happening if she stays healthy. Our second place woman was Isabeau Levito. She had a short program season's best and a personal best in the free program. She skated very well. She had a couple little errors, but I like her. I like her the way she's pushing the technical content, and that her skating is very intricate. It's nice. She just feels kind of junior still to me, and it feels like the packaging that are applying on top of her is like a little old, and she's so young. So I kind of feel like they should do something more peppy and fun and engaging. But you can't criticize her skill because she has all the technical prowess to be able to be in the top. So I think she's won 2 silvers now on the Grand Prix, and I assume she's definitely going to make the final. And I'm very excited to see the final for the Grand Prix final for the women. Our third place bronze medalist here, which was a little bit of a surprise, was Anastasia Gubanova, our Georgian. She skated very well. She's someone that I feel like has been underscored quite a bit in the past, and I'm not sure why. But she came out, she skated very well, and her free program. Now, we just have to address, I think that some of these skaters, especially from Eastern Europe, they really need to, I don't know, Google not getting canceled. There's a level of wokeness that is not happening here. I just think if you're going to skate to music from a culture that is not yours, you need to be very mindful and very careful that you do not offend that culture. And I don't think she succeeded in not offending a culture with this free program. I will say it was a similar vibe to Luna Hendrix's Oriental remix last season. Anastasia skated to a medley from Slumdog Millionaire in a tan, again, kind of similar to Luna Hendrix's tan costume, sparkly tan costume, except for it kind of had a sash kind of representing a sari potentially or something. I feel like with the hand movements and with some of the choreography, it felt very like contrived and not educated. So I would really like to see, I think there's definitely a way that you can skate to music from another culture without being offensive. And there's so much beautiful music from other cultures, and I would love to hear it. And I would love to see beautiful programs to it. But I think that people need to be more mindful and more careful, because it's 2022. The internet exists. Do you want to get canceled because of a program that you are working on that maybe you love? It doesn't make any sense to me. So, blanket statement for skating in general, wake up. Because some of these programs are not okay. I will say it was not as offensive as some of the programs we've seen coming out of Russia in the past 10, 15 years. So, but progress needs to be made here, please. My other standouts from the women's were probably Nicole Schott. She skated clean. Her jumps were so good. She had this Bohemian Rhapsody program, which was like a kind of a whiny women's cover of Bohemian Rhapsody that I was not really sold on the first time she skated to this that I heard her skate to this, but this time I really liked it. I think maybe just the thrill of her landing the program cleanly, and I could really feel her like rising to the occasion when she knew she was doing well, and she's sold the last minute of that program like crazy. So I really like to see that. I just love when they skate clean. I really do wish that some of these skaters would take out elements if they're not landing them consistently, because it is much nicer as a spectator to watch less falls. When skaters just fall left, right, and center, clearly they were not ready in some capacity to perform that program, whether it's illness, injury, mental health, something going on in their world. And I think that this needs to be, obviously, when you remove technical content, you're probably not going to win. But if you go out there and fall 5 times, you're not going to win either. So I think we need to consider adjusting programs on the day if possible, if things aren't going well. I don't know. I don't enjoy watching splat fests on the ice, and Nicole Schott's program was such a breath of fresh air in this competition when I feel like so many people were falling. So thank you to her. I did also want to mention that this was the return of Brady Tennell, who was our second climate change program. Her like kind of rainbow ombre geoid dress, I'm not really sure about it. It was not as egregious as some of her past costumes. And I also really liked her short program costume, the like purple and black. I think that actually is probably one of my favorite Brady Tennell costumes that she's ever worn. But yeah, I didn't dislike her program. I thought it was pretty good. It was a good program, but she just didn't have a successful outing here. And I know she's been very injured, and she has a new team, so there's an adjustment period here. But it was really nice to see her back on the international stage. She did come in last, and I do think that was a fair placement. But like, we know her potential, so I am happy to see her back, and I'm hoping that by U.S. Nationals she will have rallied a little bit and maybe learned from this experience and learned what she needs to do to be more successful, because this was her first outing in quite a long time. So yeah, looking forward to seeing more from her. Other than that, the ladies event was probably my favorite. I again, like, congrats Mai Miyahara. I feel like this is like an exclamation point on her comeback, and I'm here for it. I want to see more from her because she's just so wonderful to watch. Overall thoughts, again, the audience here in Sheffield was incredible. I really feel like they helped the skaters who were struggling. They really got behind the skaters majorly who were succeeding, and I feel like it ended up being a very fun event for everybody, and I'm happy that it happened. I am looking forward to Japan next week. I've already been seeing people online dropping out because of COVID and other things, so I'm very curious to see, especially in the pairs event, what's going to happen. So I will see you next week. Bye-bye.